to throw in the end zone, open receiver, touchdown.
Welcome to Week 2 of Big 12 Football Preview. Alongside Big 12 Insider Wendell Barnhouse, I'm Kristen. 1 week of college football is behind us and we're ready to jump into Week 2, starting with the biggest game in the Big 12. Texas hosts BYU this Saturday. They had a nice win against North Texas, but this week they'll be without two key starters. What can we expect to see from the Longhorns?
Well, Kristen, if I was going to pick two players that Texas couldn't afford to lose, it would have been senior center Dom Espinoza and quarterback David Ash. And as you've probably heard, Espinoza is probably out for the season after undergoing ankle surgery, and Ash won't play this Saturday against BYU, and his career might be over. Now, sophomore Tyrone Swoops is going to take over at quarterback. He'll be making the first start of his career against BYU. The UT defense definitely wants to avenge last year's game against BYU. BYU had 540 yards rushing, and quarterback Taysom Hill had 259 of those yards, and he averaged 15.2 yards per carry.
Moving on to the first Big 12 meeting of the season, Iowa State is coming off a tough loss to North Dakota State, and they'll host a Kansas State team who just put 55 points up on Stephen F. Austin. Wendell, how important is this Big 12 matchup?
Well, for Iowa State, it's very important. It's a little early in the season to be talking about must-wins, but Iowa State really needs an upset at K-State on Saturday. 3 of the Cyclones' next 7 games are against ranked teams. The Wildcats were practically perfect in their season opener, and the biggest problem they face this weekend is not looking past this game because their next contest will be at home on September 18th against number 6 Auburn.
Coming off their win over Louisiana Tech, 4th-ranked Oklahoma looks pretty confident. What can we expect to see, and what should we look out for when the Sooners play on the road against Tulsa?
Well, Oklahoma showed that this ground game can be pretty solid, and that should work pretty well against Tulsa. Now, the Golden Hurricane, they gave up 254 yards rushing and 8.5 yards per game to Tulane in the opener. OU's defense is going to have to get after Tulsa sophomore quarterback Dane Evans. He threw for 438 yards and 4 TDs last week, so they're going to try to hold that down when they play him.
Here's a look at the complete Week 2 schedule for the Big 12. Wendell, what other games stand out to you?
Well, Kristen, the one team that won its opener and needs to make the biggest improvement is Texas Tech. The Red Raiders visit UTEP, and that's going to be a challenge if Texas Tech doesn't cut out the penalties and turnovers that continue to plague this Cliff Kingsbury team.
Even though they got the win, the Red Raiders were not pleased with the way they played in Week 1. Hopefully they can use that as motivation this week. That's all we have for today. Thanks for joining us. For Wendell Barnhouse, I'm Kristen Keith. We'll see you next Thursday for Week 3 of Big 12 Football Preview.